Dong dia sadar. Ni kaji. Ni
Joseph,
Yes, Jen?
did people receive the link for today?
Yeah, people received it.
Okay. Oh, I remember our email has an issue, that's why.
Yeah, I received it from my end. So I
Oh,
received, I presume even the others got it.
sawa. So will you make the announcement?
Pardon?
You will make announcements for me today, or I'll talk towards the end of the class.
Okay, no problem. I can make it.
Sawa, text.
Okay. So, Madam Rono will give the rest 5 minutes so that they will have joined, and then we'll start at exactly 6:05.
That's okay. That's okay with me. It's exactly 6 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen. How has your week been? Can I hear how your week has been?
It has been
It's been good.
Okay, it's been good. Mine has also been good. Joseph, kindly, if you can allow me to share my slides. Are you there, Joseph? If you can kindly make me co-host so that I can share my slides. Are you there, Joseph or Jen? I'm unable to share my slides. Okay, guys, let me try and reach out to him on phone because I'm unable to share my slides. Can you hear me, Jen? Hi, Jen. I can't be able to share my slide and it seems Joseph is not there to make me co-host. Okay, okay, thanks. So just a minute, guys, but as we wait for that, I want to hear from you guys. What do you remember from last week? What did we learn in our class last week?
Can I try?
Yes, please go ahead.
My name is Simon Moore from JKUAT. What I can remember last time is we are handling assertiveness. Then there's a point we tackled on how you are supposed to communicate your feelings in case there's something that probably you are not happy of. We said number one is you point out the behavior. Then after pointing the behavior, you explain how the behavior affects you. Then lastly, state what you need to be done. Thank you.
Okay, that is very well summarized. I wanted to really hear about the assertiveness. So something else that we learned last week, apart from assertiveness? Can I hear from somebody what we did last week on apart from assertiveness? We had some how you behave at the workplace. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So tell us about how you behave at the workplace and what are good behaviors at the workplace and what are not good behaviors at the workplace, inappropriate and appropriate behaviors.
Okay. I'm Tafazwa from USIU. I remember we talked about appropriate behavior at work, which includes being on work at time. Being to work on time, respect for others, being polite, having a positive attitude towards co-workers, and also the ability to be having to have a clean clean presentation of even yourself or your work, and yeah, and when it comes to inappropriate work behavior, I remember we touched something like being aggressive and abusive, having an aggressive and abusive behavior, something like bullying, also discrimination and harassment. And under harassment, we talked about something like sexual harassment, if I can't, I'm not getting mistaken, and also something like offensive jokes. And I remember also we talked about building relationships at workplace, and some of the advantages of having good relationships at workplace. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, I think you've appropriately summarized all that we did. We talked about inappropriate work behavior, appropriate work behavior, building relationships, assertiveness, and we practice on how to be assertive. So I think Joseph has come in and he has enabled me to share my slides. So give me just a few minutes for me to my slide. So can you be able to see my slide?
Yes.
Just confirm for me before we can proceed.
Yes,
you can see my slide?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So
Yes.
We've just summarized. Yes, thank you for confirming. We have summarized a bit about what we did last week. So this session we are going to have, we are going to continue with some of the to look at even in terms of the future of the workplace. We are not only dealing with the workplace now, but also the workplace of the future. So what are the skills that are in demand? And I just like to give an example that I gave you guys, gave the Tuesday guys. I don't know if some of you remember a certain song that used to be sung sometimes back, I think in the 90s, and it used to say, so many vijana, muongeze pia bidii. Can somebody sing that song? I got a very nice person in the class who sang it. Do you remember that song? So many vijana. Do you guys remember that song? Does anybody remember that song?
Probably
It used to say,
trying to hear it.
You're trying to hear it. Can I sing it so that you remember it, if you can remember?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah,
sing
it's a Kiswahili, it was a Kiswahili song, and it used to say, so many vijana, muongeze pia bidii, baada ya kusoma, mtapata kazi nzuri sana. It used to, that is how that song used to go. And for those who maybe do not understand Kiswahili, that song means that read hard, young people. When you read hard and you're going to get a good job. At the end of it all, you're going to get a good job. Did anybody of you hear that song some time back? I just want to confirm that I'm relating to some people, or maybe you people are too young, you never heard that song.
For me, I have never heard of such a song.
You've never had it. You guys are very young. Okay, yeah, so that song was very common, and it was used to encourage people to go to school, because back then, I think people are not realized of going to school. So it was used to push people to go to school, to work hard, and for you to get a better future. And that song is a classic example of the education system that we have today, which young people have gone to school with the expectation of getting a job at the end of it all, which back then in maybe the 80s and the 90s, there were not very many graduates, there were not very many professionals graduating or coming out of colleges. And there was a lot of demand, you know, for people to be able to fill in government, to fill in the private sector. So it was automatic that when you graduate from school, you're going to get a job. And there are people who even they would get to Form 4 and they would be offered jobs, you know, they would not need to go to the university. There was a demand after colonization and the white man left. The country of Kenya and many other African countries needed to establish systems on how they can be able to work. And there was very high levels of illiteracy back then. People never used school. So, and parents never encouraged their children to go to school. It was not a priority, and people never realized that it was important. So there were few people to occupy so many jobs, which now has turned to be the opposite now. Now there are jobs, but there are very many people. So the education system of back then is not very suitable for what we have, the situation we have now, because I think what needs to be done at the moment is to encourage people to go to school, not necessarily to get jobs, but to go to school and have that option that even if I do not get a job, I can get employed, or I can start my own business, or I can become self-employed and employ other people. So you can see that the environment back then and now is completely different. And thing in the job market. In the job market, 20 years ago, there was no use of computers. People were not were using typewriters, and work was not done the way it is done today. The population has grown, demands for everything has gone up. The world has become a global village whereby you can be in Kenya, but you are working in the US. You can be able to work anywhere in the world right now. It's not about just working in your country. You can go and work in a country. So there's been a lot of changes, and this, now it comes to mind that, are you as a graduate prepared for the skills that are required in today's world? And even if you're not prepared at this stage, how can you be able to prepare yourself? Because sometimes preparation is not just about going to the university or going to college, because right now we have the internet. There are so many free online courses that you can be able to undertake to build those skills that are in demand. And when I was doing my research so that I could be able to guys through this today, I found a website which listed some of these skills that are top 20 skills that are in demand today. And some of them include cloud computing, artificial intelligence, sales leadership, analysis, mobile app development, people management, video production, audio production, UX design, SEO, that is a search engine optimization marketing, blockchain, industrial design, creativity, collaboration, adaptability, time management, persuasion, digital journalism, and animation. So these were the top skills for 2020. That were demanded in the world, not necessarily in Kenya, but in the world, that are being demanded in the world. In the Kenyan context, we also have different skills, because when you're graduating from the university, you're probably eyeing a certain profession. And in that profession, that there are skills, there are certain courses, there are certain membership organizations that you need to be part of, so that you can really get accepted, you can easily be able to network, you can be able to continue building yourself as a profession. So at this juncture, I'd just like to get examples from you people. You can mute yourself and tell me the profession that you are in, and what are some of the skills that are in demand in that particular profession. So let us hear from you guys, what skills are in demand in your specific professions. Can I hear from you, from HR guys? Okay, yes, there was somebody saying something.
My name is Faith.
Yes.
So for me, I'm currently pursuing my master's in international relations. And what I've been noticing from all applications, all posts that I've been seeing, is that I need research analysis or anything within data science and understanding like public policy and things like that.
Thank you for that. Data analytics and data science is a very green field and still requires a lot of people. So if you're somebody who can be flexible enough to even get yourself trained on that, that's a very new and green field. Can we hear from another professor?
Yes, I can give it a try.
Sure.
I take strategic management, and I can see the skill demand is people management, and of course sales leadership, And of course, all these other categories fall under strategic management. So it's
Yes, I think that's also important. I did strategic management at my master's level, and organizations require leaders. No, they require people who can be able to craft the vision, to craft the specific objectives of the organization, and can be able to bring together professions. Like, for example, the organization that I work for, we have a manager in charge of strategy, and the manager in charge of strategy just ensures that we are on track with our strategic plan, because the organization has an overall strategic plan. So he follows up with the different departments to ensure that with it. He's also responsible together with HR on performance management. So if you're in strategic planning, there's quite a lot that you need to learn, a lot of look at monitoring and evaluation, look at issues to do with planning and I think project management and such things. So I think that is good for people who are in strategic management. Can we hear another profession?
Can I speak, please?
Yes, go ahead.
This is Mary Wangoi Kibe. I'm studying my bachelor's degree in international relations. And according to me, some of the skills that are on demand is analysis, creativity, collaboration, as well as people. There's something on people there. Yes, people management. Because I feel with IR, you tend to deal with very many people, especially if you're in the fields of peace and conflict and development. You're obviously working with many people, as well as diplomacy. And in terms of creativity, you need to be creative as an IR scholar to come up with better policies and solutions as well. And in terms of analysis, one thing about IR, there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of resource material to read. Therefore, if you're not analytical enough and critical enough to read this particular material and analyze it critically, you cannot be able to provide the output that is required. So I think those are some of the skills that are on demand in my own area. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And you're perfectly right. And I want to emphasize on an analysis. In any situation that you will go, it will be demanded of you to become analytical in the way that you think, in the way that you are approaching a problem. Because if you just forward work which you have not analyzed and going to see what are the pros and cons, advantages to the organization, what are the risks to the organization, you have not researched and seen who else has done this, can it be able to work for us? So this is analysis is cross-cutting to all professions. So I encourage you to look at it, because this is something that will make you stand out. Who is that person who is presenting a paper that is very well analyzed, has looked at all corners, has looked at everything? Then people start realizing that, you know, we have a very powerful professional amongst us. So can I hear from another profession?
Yeah, okay. Amanda Caleb.
Yes.
From Kenyatta University.
Yes, proceed.
Okay, I'm doing recreation and sports management. And one of the skills that I've seen, because I really like watching news when it comes to sport in Kenya, and there's a lot of scandals, a lot of mismanagement of funds, a lot of mismanagement of sportsmen. And I think integrity is what we really need. I really need as a manager to enable me to collaborate everything when it comes to sport, because I'll not be dealing with a single sport, maybe football. I'll be doing different sports. And also I need to have knowledge in different fields of sports. And also I need to be creative in such a way that I will not mostly major on a single sport or a single sector that has really developed, forgetting other sector that is really low and doesn't have resources. And lastly, transparency. You have to be transparent in everything that you do, so that everyone can have that trust in you as a manager.
Thank you for that. You've really well put it. And I would like to recommend you to go and watch. There is a very good movie on Netflix to do with the scandals. It's not actually a movie. I think it's a documentary on doping. And when you mentioned integrity, that came to me, whereby we had, I think the Russian the Russian Olympic team were compromised in one way in terms of doping, and I think and also there's a lot of investments being done in Kenya now in terms of sports. People have started to notice the importance of sports. Along, it was just about maybe athletics, and even that athletics, they were not really investing in it and taking it seriously. So for me, I think you have chosen a very, very good profession, and I think you're going to go far if you adopt some of those skills that you have talked about. Another profession?
Yeah. Can I talk?
Yes, proceed, yes.
Yes.
Yes, let's have one person first. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I'm Tafazo Bera once again. Before I came for my degree, for my undergrad degree.
Can I try?
I was working.
Let's finish with Tafazo first.
Okay, so I was saying before I came for a degree, I was doing this certificate in printing as an apprentice. So in that industry, I noticed like you need these skills such as innovativeness and flexibility and also technological skills. Why am I saying so? Because it's like when we were training, we were being trained by these elderly people, and they were those people who had stayed at that company for 20 years. But unfortunately for them, the machines, like the printing machines, they're advancing. And I saw some of them being laid off because they were failing to adapt to the new technology, and they were even failing to be innovative. Let's say you are doing a night shift, and in the middle of the night, there's no the engineers are available, and the machine may be just got an error, and the job needs to be delivered early in the morning. So that's when I noticed like now we need to develop ourselves, especially technologically, and also being innovative. So I think that's another thing that we needs to be considered as well.
Thank you, Tafadzwa. You are very right. Adaptability, change. Don't be afraid of change. There's a book called Who Moved My Cheese. Go and read that book. And I want to give you a story of my experience. I worked for Kenya Power for a period of around 6 years. I remember when I joined Kenya Power back then in 2007, there had been some structural changes, and had some engineers who had worked there all their lives. And when the young people came in, like me, and some engineers, I'm not an engineer, but we have some engineers and technicians who are coming in, they were young. And you could see that these old professionals who are almost retiring, they were not willing to show the young people the ropes of the work. So we would go to some place, an engineer would go to some place with a much older engineer who has experience in the work. And maybe when that person wants to disconnect the meter, he would put his lab coat around the meter so that you, the young person, are not able to see what he's doing. Why? Because he did not adapt to change. And he has seen that these young people who are coming, they can be able to get him out of his job. So don't wait for change to catch up with you. Keep on changing, to change jobs. Don't be afraid to acquire new skills, and always be a permanent student, because change will always be there. So don't get caught whereby now change has come and you have nowhere to go. You have not updated yourself. Yeah, so that's what I can say about that. I have another profession. I'm not hearing the main professions, financial and finances. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, my name is.
Okay, I'm Pride from USIU doing pharmacy. So I've interacted with many people who are doing pharmacy, and some of the skills that I realized is required in that field is number one is a mathematical skill, especially those simple maths like administering drugs 1 times 2, 1 times 2 is also very important, and you must be someone who is also accurate and very keen when you are administering a drug, in that as a slight mistake or a simple mistake can either lead to death or can save life of a person. Another skill that I've also realized is very important is interpersonal skills, because you are dealing with patients and you are also dealing with doctors. So you have to be someone who have got good interpersonal skills that can enable you to interact with the patients, because for you to convince you find a situation whereby a patient does not want to take drugs. So you need to be someone who can convince such like a patient in order to be injected or to take drugs. And that one goes together with the communication skills. How do you communicate? You need someone who is very clear in your communication. When you tell a patient 2 times 3, what does that one mean? Maybe two tablets 3 times in a day. So when your communication is not clear, that one can lead to, you can either affect the patient's life or it can lead to something very different.
Yes, thank you so much for that. I think you have really put it really well. Your profession is very high in demand in the US. I hope you know. In the US, I think a pharmacist is almost like a millionaire. And I want to also talk about the issue of being of integrity when it comes to your profession. We are seeing a lot of issues to do with drug abuse. We are seeing a lot of issues to do kuwekelewa mchele, or it's called what? It's called there's a drug that they put in your drink. And all that is as a result of pharmacists who have low integrity or accept to be compromised. So that's another area that you need to look at and just understand that impact on, death or life. So yeah, I think you've given really good examples. Can we have another profession?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Duncan, in the field of mathematics. What I've realized we need here is mathematical modeling skills, that when you are given a problem, you should be in a position to model it into a mathematical way. Like, for example, the one being used by the MOH to project the COVID-19 effects and so many others. 2, you also need interpretation skills, whereby you can be able to interpret the mathematical model that you've made into a life scenario. And then we also need optimization skill, whereby when you are given a problem, you should be able to give it an optimal solution. Thank you.
Okay, I think you've really said well about mathematics. I assure you I was the worst mathematics in my high school and my primary school. Unfortunately, so I had so much fear for maths, but I came to realize as an adult that maths is required everywhere. So yes, what the skills that you've mentioned are very important. Can we have another question? I want to hear from accountants. I've not heard from HR. Can you represent your profession? Yes, go ahead. Whoever was going ahead.
Let me continue. I am in the field of leadership and administration. And I have seen in your screen that leaders are needed. And one of the skills I think which is highly required in the market is problem solving, because you'll find that you'll go to events and then you find that these people who are in that event, probably they are not so good in organizing the event, knowing how to collaborate with each other so as to make the event successful. So for me, who is in the administration and leadership, I think problem solving is one of the greatest skill that is required. Also, I also think that accountability and integrity in leadership is required. We have had cases of leaders who are corrupt, cases of leaders who have embezzled funds for development in the country. So I think integrity is on high need in the country, and problem solving. Yeah, I also think consultancy is also one of another skill that is required now that majority of people who are entering into self-employment are starting up consultancy firms for various fields such as HR, accounting, auditing. Yeah, so I think also consultancy is another skill required in the market. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Can I hear from another profession?
Hello, my name is Gloria. I'm studying economics and finance. I think one of the skills required.
I think I'm losing you, Gloria.
Blockchain and can you hear me?
Yes, yes, continue.
Finance is rapidly changing because of the adoption of cryptocurrencies. So I would say blockchain is very important, and knowledge in traditional finance as well is also important. So knowledge in accounting in such fields is also important as we shape the future of finance in the digital age.
Thank you for that, Gloria. I consider myself a trade economist. So when I heard that you're doing economics, I was very happy, because if you've noticed of late, there's a surge of demand of economists everywhere. Every organization they need an economist. So you'll find health economists, you'll find energy economists, you'll find trade economists. So you're in the right profession. You now probably just need to identify a specific area of economics that you want to do. So, and those skills that you are very, very important. Any other profession that wants to share before we can proceed?
Can I share?
Yes.
A bit. My profession is sociology. I think the skills that I've seen which are highly needed are people management, whereby you have good interpersonal skills, you have good communication skills, and you can handle communities well, like people living in the communities.
Okay. Yeah, sociology is a really big area that there are quite a number of professions that were not considered big sometime 5-10 years ago, but now there's so much demand. Like I was being told in Australia, there's a lot of demand for community people, development sociology. So you're in the right profession, and also what you've talked about, being able to relate people, because it is about socialization. It's about examining human behavior and proposing how we can even better the livelihoods of those people. So I think I had quite a bit, just for emphasis on some of the skills. You need to be, IT savvy. And by now, I'm hoping that as you're trying to get out to look for jobs, I hope you have a LinkedIn profile, because that is the media platform that will help you to be able to network, will help you to be able to profile yourself. So if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, go and create one, and ensure that you filled it out. Look for people who are, ahead of you in terms of profession, and connect to them. Read what they share, comment on what they share. And sooner or later, you'll find yourself getting to know so much about what happens in the workplace. Because as you're coming out of the university now, you have a lot of theory, but now you need to be able to see what actually happens on the ground. So it's important that you go to this platform, read as much as possible, connect to people. Another important thing that you need to do is also look for your professional organization. Most professionals have an organization that that they ascribe to. For example, we have lawyers having the Law Society of Kenya, accountants, they have the ISPAC. I think we have marketers who have Marketing Society of Kenya. So find out which is the closest to your profession. Join. You'll be able to network. You will be able to learn a lot, and you'll be able to work with people in that particular profession, and they will be able to assist you as you grow in your profession. So I just wanted to mention that. I didn't want us to finish this and be able to take you through that. So,
excuse me, Madam Ron.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Someone talk on public relation, please. I would really love to hear from someone taking this course on public relations.
Okay, can we hear from public relations? Anybody who has an idea in terms of the skills for public relations? Myself, I'm a public relations expert, but I want your colleagues to contribute this before I can be able to come up. And do you have a relations expert?
I think I have an idea. It's Mary.
Yes.
I think I have an idea on PR. okay, for me, I think when you're part of the public relations, you definitely represent or you listen to the public most of the times within the organization. You are that bridge between the organization itself or the company with the public, or be it the customers or whoever it is. So one of the skills I think required is people management. You're dealing with a lot of people. Therefore, you need to know, how do you handle people? How will you handle the narrative behind your company? You know, you're the person who usually pushes this narrative that as this particular company, we uphold these particular things. So you have to be in charge of that narrative. And as you're in charge of that particular narrative, you're dealing with a lot of people. So people management is highly required. I also think creativity is very much required, because with PR, it's in my own opinion, it's like marketing. Therefore, you have to be very creative with how you do these things. What kind of narrative do you want your company to be known for? You know, what kind of slogan should people be aware of? So I think also creativity is basically needed. So yeah, that's my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. I think you've really put it down well. As a PR person, you're managing external and internal publics. By external publics, these are members of the organization. They could be customers, they could be shareholders, they could be, you know, people who relate, you know, even the public, they relate to the organization from external. Then we have the internal stakeholders of the organization, who are employees, could be management, could even be board members, organization. So you need people management skills, because you're managing all these stakeholders to ensure that you portray a positive image, both internally within the organization and also externally out there, that people have a positive image of your organization. Creativity, you'll find PR has been mixed with marketing, and you'll find yourself as a PR person having to do marketing work, you know, having to brief agencies on in terms of advertising content, in terms of commercials that you want to run. So creativity is very important in your profession. Also being an outgoing person, because you also do media relations. So, and you'll find most of these media people, you find them out there. You know, you'll not go to a media person's home. You know, you'll go to a social place and you can be able to meet a journalist who you can be able to form a relationship, because PR is about also influencing the narrative of your organization out there. And how do you influence it? You influence it by having positive media relations, so that when you have a story, then you can be able to get this journalist and tell him, oh, I have a story. Can you come and cover it? We have an event. Can you come and cover it? So you also need to be an outgoing person. Crisis management is very important in PR. If you look at, if some of you may remember when we had the KQ plane that went down in Douala, the communications and PR people were the ones who were able to that crisis. Kenya Airways, I think, contracted Jinadin, which is a PR firm, to be able to manage the communications, because there are people who lost their people. There are, you know, Kenyans who are just concerned. They are shareholders of Kenya Airways, and the person who did that work is a public relations person. So you also need to have skills of crisis management. So I think those are a few. I hope we've been able to answer. You can be able to even read more on that. Is there a profession that is so you would want us to talk about before I can move to my next slide?
Hi, I'm Ian.
Yes.
I'm doing a Bachelor of Computer Science at KU, and I am specializing in data science and machine learning. And something that is very important in that field is knowing how to work with several people, or having domain knowledge of several fields, such as cloud computing, understanding business cases for whatever cases, projects you are working with. So let's say if you're working with on a problem or on a project in medicine or something, you'll need to understand the various maybe things that cause certain symptoms, and are these symptoms an indication of this disease or that one? So it depends. You need a lot of skills in data analysis, and also things such as cloud computing and various computer science use case theories.
Okay, thank you for that. I think what you've said is totally appropriate. So allow me to move to this. I think you can be able to share, some of you can be able to share, if you have some you can put on the chat in terms of which profession it is and some of the skills that you feel that is required. And something that I had also forgotten, in the public sector, if you're looking for a job in the public sector, there are the Chapter 6 documents. How many of you know about the Chapter 6 documents? Can we have somebody to mention some of the Chapter 6 documents they know? Do you know Chapter 6 documents? You have the HELB clearance. We have the CID clearance, police clearance, and we have tax compliance certificate, which you need to have. You need to have the CRB clearance and also the ESCC clearance. So when you're looking for jobs in the public sector, especially in Kenya, these are some of the documents that you need to have. So as you're going out there, I think this is something that you can renew on a yearly basis, because I think some of those certificates are just valid for a year. I know it is expensive, and I'm aware that there's an MP who has gone to Parliament to try and some of these costs are removed, because you're a graduate. You should not be charged to look for a job. Those things should be free. So if you're looking to work for a government entity, you will even see in the newspaper jobs that are advertised, they will require you to have Chapter 6 documents. So you can also look for those documents. So the next area of discussion I want us to discuss is attitudes and prejudices at the workplace. And an attitude could be generally defined as a way a person responds to his environment, either positively or negatively. Attitudes are confluence of an individual and external stimuli, and therefore everyone is in a position of responsibility to improve their attitudes. So either your manager, employees, organizations, that responsibility to ensure that they're improving attitudes of people that they are working with. Your attitude at work can impact your career as well as your general outlook. I don't know if some of you have heard of this saying that your attitude will determine your altitude. So basically it means the attitude you have towards work or your situation, any situation, it determines how high you go. If you have negative attitude, then growing becomes very hard, because naturally people do not like negative people. But you have positive attitude, you keep on attracting positive things to your life. When something is going wrong, the first thing people usually say is to stay strong, stay positive. So those affirmations and encouragement, sometimes they work. And it's important to remember that words can go a long way during a time of negativity in the workplace. So if you're in that work environment and maybe there's something that is going wrong with maybe a fellow employee of yours, be that voice that is providing encouragement as opposed to that voice who is like, oh, kwisha, yani wewe tu umefu, wewe kwisha leo. Be that, positive person who is providing positive messages, who is encouraging. And how do you deal with negative attitudes and feelings? Because definitely you will find a situation whereby you yourself maybe has developed those attitudes and feelings. So you need to know how to deal with them. So choose who you associate with carefully, because there are people who are just generally negative. Either that is how they grew up or something happened to them that they just ended up becoming people who are very negative. So really company, because they say, if I want to know who you are, I'll just look at the 5 friends that you have. Because if you're 5 friends who are negative, then definitely you'll be the 6th negative person. So friends can be able to even portray your image. People can judge you. If you associate with people who are always having ideas, who are always making a difference in the organization, then by just that association, people will perceive you positively. You will receive opportunities, and even yourself, those people grab their positivity towards you, and you'll find yourself, also becoming positive. I talked about be encouraging. Always be that encourager. Don't always be that negative employee who, and I'll just give you an example of, because I work in a government entity. A lot of times we deal with these people of, ESCC has come to investigate something, or maybe the CID are investigating something, or the Auditor General are investigating something. And you will always have these employees in the organization who are like, hey, but you see, there are also these employees who are, they're positive. They're like, possibly that there's just nothing, possibly these people have just come to do their work. And, even those people who are undergoing that process, you encourage them. So ask questions, don't assume. A lot of misunderstanding happens and negative attitudes are developed as a result of assumption. You don't ask, you just see something and you just decide that this is what it is. You don't have that motivation, or why is this person doing this? And there's something important I talked about the Tuesday class, is that when you're asking or engaging somebody about something that you have seen that you're concerned about, avoid using words like why. You can use words like what made you did this? What made you do this? You can use words like how does it make you feel? So you are able to really get what that person is saying, because you come through as somebody who wants to understand, as opposed to somebody with fingers. When you use the word why, then you put that person at a defensive mode. So they will always defend, they can even give you lies, they'll feel defensive. But when you use how and what, then you make that person open up, and then you can be able to now have an understanding of what led them to that. There are people whom, they come from a situation whereby there's a lot of poverty. Maybe they've come from a situation whereby they were abused. So they formed these negative attitudes, and it is our responsibility as they, to be able to encourage them and to be able to pull them out of this, negativity that they have. And I also was referring to a book and a movie that I had read about you attract. Okay, there's one called The Secret, and then there's one called the Law of Attraction. And basically, what it says is that whatever you think about, it comes into life. If you think about positive things come your way. If you think about negative things, then negative things come your way. So you are the kind of your life. So if you choose to be negative, then negative things will just keep on manifesting in your life. But if you choose to be positive, then you'll always find that positive things keep happening. And when I was watching that, The Secret on Netflix, I remember an example of being given that you're driving into a mall, and then this mall is normally fully packed, you hardly find parking. But the attitude you're going into that mall is that I'm going to find parking. And as you just walk in, as you drive in, you just see it has reversed, and you just find a parking spot just right there. But then you have this person who is driving to the mall saying, hata sitapata parking, hapa ni kuzunguka tu. And you will find this person will just go around and you will not find parking. What? Because they have created, their imagination have just created the situation. So just you can explore that and read about, the power of attraction and how now it can really manifest in your life. Let's also talk about prejudice. Prejudice is an unjustified or incorrect attitude, usually negative towards an individual, based solely on the individual's membership of a social group. For example, a person may hold prejudiced views or towards a certain race, gender, etc. So examples of discrimination occurring can include, being refused a job. Maybe you are somebody who is, let's even give an example of, you're a person with disability. So you have a person living with disability, you have gone for an interview, but a decision has been made to give you that job, not based on your performance on the interview, but because of your disability. Then being dismissed on having, shifts cut down, just maybe because of a certain, maybe you're from a certain tribe and you're being discriminated based on that. Denial of opportunities, transfers, promotions. You'll find that maybe you're not being promoted because you're a lady. Somebody feels, oh, this one is yet to have another 4 children. So if I promote her, she will never have time for work. Not being paid the same as somebody doing the same job with the same experience and qualification. This happens a lot to women, whereby you'll find that, and research has shown that in a lot of instances, you'll find a man being paid more than a woman, and yet they are doing the same job. So that's another way of discrimination based on gender, and it's not good. And exclusion or isolation by workers. And you find a lot of this maybe with people who are transgender or with people who are LGBT. So that is another form of prejudice or discrimination that happens in the workplace. information that you need to do your work deliberately being withheld from you, being given impossible tasks. Somebody is giving you that task so that you are unable to do it, and then maybe they can even fire you. Being subjected to taunts and abuse that reference the protected attribute. So I think I can hear examples from you guys in terms of any experiences that you have had of prejudice against either yourself or even a friend or something you have had somewhere about being people who are prejudiced. Can I hear your experiences or other people's experiences that you have had? You can put your hand up, or you can even unmute and just give us your story.
Yeah, okay. Let me keep the session moving. Okay. When I was doing my course, the first time I started doing my course when you were in first year. Hello, are you getting me?
Yes, I'm getting you. Proceed.
Okay. When we registered our course, there are these ladies. I'm doing recreation and sports management. There are these ladies who, from the first lesson, because they are doing more of practicals, they started saying like, okay, me with this course, it's a men-based course. I cannot do it. I'm going for another course. So, and some left and others remain in the same course. And currently, the ones that remained are even more perfect than some of the men who we thought that would be good at it. They prejudged, they thought that, okay, because I'm a man, I have the physique, I have everything that it's required. I've played before, I have a history in sports, I can be successful in this course. But the ladies who had nothing, and they came with the mentality of learning new skills and new things from our lecturers, they have really improved more than the people who thought they knew. So prejudice affected others positively, and affected both the two sides that I've said negatively.
Thank you for that experience, and we experience a lot of that in colleges, whereby there's a lot of prejudice in terms of, maybe you're a lady, you cannot be able to handle a particular profession, and you might be discriminated. Can I have another example? Can I have another example?
Hello.
Yes, proceed.
Last year at around May, I happened to get a certain job that was paying people allowances per day. But immediately I joined the job, they realized that I was a student. So they reduced my allowances and started paying me half of what they were paying the others, and the rest they were distributing among each other. So in that case, I asked if a student has less needs than the others, but they still took my money.
Hello.
Yes, that's a good example of an experience. Yes, even if you're a student, you should not be treated. If you're doing the same work, you should not be treated.
Hello.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I've also fallen a victim of. There is a day I went into a motor vehicle showroom, and I was kind in a casual clothing, and then I went to ask for the price of a vehicle, and now the receptionist there, but the moment I got in, there was a way she was treating me, and it showed some kind of discrimination. But the second time I went there with a suit, they attended to me very well and even gave me an umbrella so that I come next time.
That's a very interesting situation, but don't be going to those showrooms. Are you going to buy a car?
Okay, that day I went to ask for the price of a car.
Yeah.
But now on the next time,
Yeah.
when I was not buying the car.
Okay. Yeah, it was good you're going to buy. You know, now I think maybe they also receive young people like who just want to test drive the car, but they cannot buy it. So even them, they are trying to be smart. But that's a good story. Thank you. Yes, maybe you can be discriminated based on how you look. Even maybe you can look young, or even how you're dressed. You can be, somebody can make judgments about that. And it's not right. Can we have another example
Hello.
of discrimination? Yes, proceed.
Hello.
Yes.
Lynette. A type of discrimination, most probably based on my disability, even from my fellow students, something of the sort, like the students mostly in the Kenyatta University. You find most of the disability students, they are engaged in education. They do a course in education, and for a person like me, they find it somehow weird whether I'll be able to make it now that I'm in the School of Business doing a course in human resource.
Yeah, that is a good example. And I just want to give you another example of a nurse. I think there was a lady who was a nurse. I was seeing her story. And I think she was a nurse, became disabled. And then she was going out there to look for jobs. And every hospital in the US, it's a story that happened in the US, were turning her down because they were not understanding. Now you're supposed to be a nurse, you're supposed to be lifting heavy stuff. How are you going to work while you're on a wheelchair? But eventually she was able to get a hospital which really welcomed her, who understood that that she was able to do the work and could be able to assist her to be able to do the work. So it's not all bad. There are also organizations who are now getting that awareness, and especially in government. I work with a government entity, and we are required to be able to implement affirmative action in favor of persons with disability and genders that are well represented in the organization. So thank you for sharing your story. Does anybody else want to share their story?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I once experienced that as well, personally, and even my co-workers. That was 2019 at the company where I was working. I was an apprentice. You know, on their code of conduct, they've written like when they want you to have overtime, they could tell you early in the morning as you arrive at work, or if you are going for, you are supposed to take a night shift. The moment you arrive at work, that's when they should tell you that you are going to have an overtime. But like that rule was applying to those people who were in offices. As for us who were in the workshop and who were doing the printing stuff, operating the printing presses, you know, they could just come when you are about to clock out, they tell you, you are continuing up to this time. Then he said, how? Then they could tell you, you remember you are still on probation, you're a student, you don't need to voice anything. And especially those for the elders, for the seniors who were training us, they were treating them in such a way because they were not that qualified. They were just having experience, doing good job, but they were not with proper qualifications. So they couldn't voice their concern. So they were just being treated anyhow, unlike those guys who were working in the HR or finance or whatever. So that's what I noticed.
Yes, there's a lot of that happening, especially in Kenya, in Africa, in terms of job value, whereby when somebody judges you based on the job that you're doing, as opposed to based on you as a person and based on what you're doing. You're doing that job to be able to meet your needs. So you'll find there's a lot of discrimination in terms of people value certain jobs over certain jobs. And that also now goes to even the person. So when you see sweeping, then you attach the value of that person to the job that they are doing, which is not right. And that is actually prejudice. Do we have another example? Experience that somebody wants to make before we can wrap this up? Okay, so I think we've exhausted the experience. Yes, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd
Yes,
like to contribute. I don't know if this counts as discrimination, but I was working as a part-timer, and this was last year actually, and COVID happened. And the moment that became the norm, I wasn't paid. And I tried to reach out to the organization to see if I can be compensated, but it seems that since I wasn't under any contract as a part-timer, I had no right to continue pursuing this any further. And there's also like no way for me to move forward with this. I can't take them to court. I can't sue them for this because there's no proof. So I just decided to say goodbye to to that money and survive on my own. Yeah.
That is exploitation. Yeah, that is really exploitation. And maybe they even looked at it from your gender, whereby you're a lady, you will not take them anywhere. So that is a good example of prejudice. So just to wrap this up, we also need to look at the other side. And where does prejudice come from? Sometimes it's not even the fault of the person who is prejudiced. It could be the circumstances that they grew up in. It could be the schools that they went. It could be the socialization that they had. So I think it's important to continue to recognize, because so you could be like, here we could be prejudiced against, something, and we are not, and we feel you might think that you're not a prejudiced person, but when it comes to certain situations, you feel that you could be labeled prejudiced person. And I'd just like to give an example on the issue of LGBT, whereby there are some people who completely frown about LGBT, and there are people who are open about it. And it could be construed that for you to frown against LGBT, you are prejudiced. So you could be prejudiced as an individual in certain instances. And so it's important that you be alive of those situations, keep introspecting yourself in terms of how you relate to issues, relate to people, so that you come across as that person who is a prejudiced person. Like, for example, a man, you could come out as somebody who is prejudiced against the female gender, or somebody who is prejudiced against persons with disabilities because able-bodied. So it's important that we are alive to these prejudices that exist and try to work on them, try to be conscious on them and work on them, because it ruins relationships at the workplace. And it can even people leave work, because if they feel that they are not in the right environment, then, or working in a toxic environment, then they will leave, and you could be losing a really good employee because of just the prejudice that you have taken them through. And I remember earlier on, early 2000s, for you to get a job, there were some companies who were actually testing people for HIV. So if you come out to be HIV positive, you would be, you would not get that job. So that is another being prejudiced. Some would even test for pregnancy. So if you're pregnant, then there is a chance that you will not be given the job. So those are some of the situations that happened some time back. But as we continue to do advocacy and just recognizing that these things exist, then we start working on them. And I think you saw the campaign in the US, the Black Lives Matter. There are some of those white people in the US who were not even aware that they are prejudiced. They thought it was their right. So it's also the responsibility of the person who is feeling prejudiced or has undergone that experience to talk about it and to participate in advocacy for it. We educate these people who are prejudiced so that they can be able to start recognizing their prejudices and work towards reducing them. So thank you for that. I think we can go to the next slide. Just a minute. I don't know why my slide is moving. Okay, I think it has moved. Yeah, so we have a class discussion here that which has just examples on situations of prejudice. And we have the first example here. Mary is 6 months. After 10 years working in an accounting firm, she applies for a senior position that has just opened up. Despite her having more experience and qualifications than the other applicants, she was passed over. When she asked the manager, he said, I need somebody who will be more dedicated to the position. Already see the manager was very prejudiced because of her condition, which is temporary. Pregnancy is very temporary. So he had already judged her and seen that she will not be dedicated to the position because of her condition, even despite her having working in that organization for 10 years. Then example number 2, Ryan works on a construction site. His co-workers recently found out he's gay and have started calling him princess. So I was giving you the example of LGBT who also undergo quite a bit of prejudice. So those catcalling and, just, calling people names just because, of their sexual orientation is also a prejudice, example of prejudice. Then we have the third example. Annie works in a toy store and has a physical disability preventing her from carrying heavy items. She's recently found out her co-workers earn more than her, despite having the same experience and working just. When she asked her manager about it, she said it was because you just don't carry as much weight around here. So you can see that is an example of a person with disability, living with disability, being prejudiced because of their situation, which they did not choose. So I think those are the examples that I had for the class. And we'll go to an issue of inculcating a sense of trust in the workplace. You spend a lot of time in the workplace, and I think in the last class I showed you that you spend a bit of time in the workplace. So it's important that you work with your people you work with, you are able to trust them. And how do you inculcate this sense of trust, between your co-workers? And some of the ways that you can be able to do this is a promise. So if you promise that I'm going to send you this document, like for example, you're working with a colleague or in a team, and all of you have different parts of a document. And maybe there's one person responsible to sending it to the boss by maybe 5 o'clock in the evening. So you do the work, but by 5 o'clock in the evening, you're the one who has not submitted your part. So this person who is in charge of this team is in trouble trying to follow you. Maybe you've even switched off your phone, you've gone away. So maybe that person has to submit without that, or that person has to do the work for you. So following through on promises, inculcates that sense of trust, because they always know I can trust so-and-so to be able to deliver. Communicate with co-workers. Don't be the kind of person who just goes to the office, doesn't say hi to someone in the morning. You don't know what people are going through. Have that, kind of cordial relationship whereby you can communicate with your co-workers. You can find out, are they doing okay? Are there any issues? Can you be able to help them? So that kind of communication, or even just telling them, are you okay? That person will be able to trust you because they see that you really not only just care for the worker in me, but also you care for the person in me. Then become a mentor. If as you rise up in your position in the workplace, because somebody could have mentored you, or maybe they didn't even mentor you, it's important that you take the baton and also mentor somebody else. Remember the struggles that you are going through when you are new in the workplace. You would have had it better if you had somebody mentoring you. So you can pass it forward by also identifying somebody who's new in the organization and assisting them to be able to acclimatize within their organization. Then be honest. Let people know you for being honest. If for sure that maybe there was something that you were supposed to do and you forgot about it, as an assignment that you were supposed to do, something came up and you were not able to do it, don't lie about it, or don't give an excuse. Just be vulnerable and say, I'm sorry I was not able to do this, but allow me to be able to deliver it at this time. That honesty, builds a sense of trust in people too, and also people you work with. Then get to know your team members. Don't be the kind of person who just goes to the office and You just know the name of that person. You know nothing about them. You don't know whether they have children, they are married or single. You know nothing about them. If you want to win the trust of an individual, show them that you're interested in getting to know about them. Know what do they like to do? What do they do in their spare time? And with that kind of, knowing that person, then that person is able to open up and you have very good working relationship. Admit your mistake about that. See value in each member of the team. Even if you're probably the most intelligent person in that team, you're the one who comes up with the most brilliant ideas. Don't look at it from that point of view. Look at it from the point of view that you're a chain, and a chain is as its weakest link. So if you have somebody who is weak in your team, it is your responsibility as one of the team members or even the team leader to assist this person to be strong, because organizations are working towards a single goal. So it doesn't, within the organization, there's no point of competing. There's no point of competing with another person that you're working within the organization. I think you should just be able to work together, better yourselves together as you move up. Then trust each other, trust other people. So not only to win the trust of your colleagues, also trust them. If somebody sees that you trust them, then they will struggle to be able to live up to that trust that you have been able to give them. Participate in the office, help your team with values, build trust gradually. Trust is not something that you build overnight. It is something that you build gradually. When you meet somebody for the first time, you just don't trust them. It is time, it is their actions, their behaviors that will lead you to be able to trust them. Admit lack of knowledge. When you admit, then people are able to help you. When you ask a question, you'll be able to get an answer. But if you hide your lack of knowledge, then you also deny yourself of that opportunity to be able to know that particular area. Then take your responsibilities seriously, and also be inclusive. I think the whole of this employability is about being inclusive. So be inclusive in the place of work, you are having members of your being from the diverse areas. Don't just be comfortable with having an all men's team or an all women's team. Be inclusive and accept everybody to be part of your team. I want us to talk about values, and values are basic and fundamental that guide or motivate attitudes or actions. They help us to determine what is important to us. Values describe the personal qualities we choose to embody to guide our actions, the sort of person we want to be, the manner in which we treat ourselves and others, and our interactions with the world. They provide the general guideline for conduct. So values in a narrow sense is that which is good, desirable, or worthwhile. Values are the motive behind purposeful action. They are the ends to which we act and come in many forms. Personal values are personal beliefs about what is right and wrong and may not be considered moral. Cultural values are values accepted by religions or societies and reflect what is important in each context. So we'll go to the types of values, and I will ask you to give me examples. So in terms of individual values, individual values reflect how you show up in your life and your specific needs, the principles you live by, and what you consider for yourself. So one of the examples of individual values is creativity. Can I hear an individual value example from you guys? At least 3 of them. Apart from creativity, what else do you consider an individual? Can I hear from you? Individual value?
Hello.
Yes, proceed.
Integrity and honesty.
Yes, integrity and honesty. That's a good individual value. Any other individual value example? Yes,
commitment and courageous.
Yes. Courageous, yes, that's a good individual value. So we can go to relation. Yes, one last example.
Risk taker.
Risk taker, yes, that is also a good value. Those who take the highest risk are the ones who have the highest returns. So in terms of the relationship values, these are values that reflect how you relate to other people in your life, be they friends, family, colleagues, in your organization. So one example of it
Did we lose Rose? Rose, are you there?
Yes, seems as if we have lost her.
She will come back. Maybe you can be making the announcements, Joseph.
Okay. I see she's getting back, but before that, I wish to make a few announcements. Do you all remember that Jen had promised us that we'll be getting one key speaker or one key person in the industry who will be speaking to us? How many can remember?
Can remember.
I can remember.
Yeah, you remember?
Yes.
So we'll be privileged on 14th of May to have the Standard Chartered Bank CEO. How many know him?
No one.
I know him,
No
but
one?
I need.
Sorry? Someone knows him. What is his name?
I've met him in an.
You break him.
I think I also know him.
You know him. Just tell us the.
You've interacted with him?
Is it Karaoke Ngari or I'm wrong?
He is the one, eh?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have anyone who has interacted with him on Crossreach, like on such a platform the way we are talking?
I'm so humbled.
So are you all excited? Will you invite your friends, even those not in the program?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so just go on. I will add on if anything is left out.
Okay. So on 14th, we'll be privileged to have him talking to us. And of course, so we should be expecting, or we expect that you have questions, you have some interactive question that you may want to get to hear from him as a mentor, and also as someone who has scaled the height and is in that position. So we are required to channel our question for earlier preparation to Trish Mativo. I'm not so sure if I can't see her in the call here.
She goes to the Tuesday class, but I am very sure she messaged all of them in the WhatsApp and Telegram.
In the WhatsApp group.
Right?
How many received that communication?
Yes.
And have you sent your questions?
Yeah, doing that.
Huh? So guys, I have only up to tomorrow 10 a.m. To send the questions to Karaoke. So if you really want him to engage on something that you would want to gain value on, if you don't send your questions by tomorrow 10, please don't send them. And remember, during the discussion, he will first prioritize on the questions that we have sent in advance before answering the questions that we have for that day. This is like a lifetime opportunity. I am also going to share. Someone says they're not in the WhatsApp group. Do you want to join, or are you on WhatsApp? And would you want to join?
Yes.
So those not there, do we have Masha in the class today? Masha? One dear, please do me a favor, like add the people that are there. I know we are yet to talk, but please add those ones that want to be added in the Telegram and WhatsApp today. Sawa Wandia. Wandia, I saw Wandia in class today.
Yes, one day is in
Hello?
class.
Hello,
Yes.
I'm here.
Yes, please help me only for today.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Sorry, excuse me.
Yes.
Did you say 14th or 13th?
14th. When is Eid? Do we have any Muslim
Friday.
people? Sorry?
It's a Friday. It's a Friday.
Eid is on Friday. It's a Friday. Is Eid on Friday or Thursday?
Friday.
Is it?
It's Friday from my calendar, unless if I'm having the problem. But I think
No, because we've been asking a few people and they tell us on 13th. So in case Eid is going to be on 14th, we are going to reschedule the career talk. And this we can confirm tomorrow. Like we are just trying to confirm from different sources. If Eid is on the 14th, we won't do the career talk. But if Eid is on 13th, the career talk will still happen. And tomorrow, if we confirm the dates, I'll be sharing the flyer with all the information, the login details, and all that information. You'll receive it. And I have one of the coolest things. I have been able to make the frames that we can use on Facebook. Like, you know, the way you choose frames on Facebook and you for your profile. Yes. But I will only give you the steps next week if the event is happening. Sawa sawa?
okay, thank you.
Yes. But just in case anyone finds out information about Eid from credible sources, please reach out to me personally. We are also trying to establish. But I know like from Tanzania, people, it's on Thursday.
Okay, thank you, Jen. And again, if you have any interactive ideas on how we can make this big, how we can make it trend, also share the ideas with Wandia so that we can all make it a participatory event for all of us. Thank you. Madam Rose, if you can hear me.
Yes, yes, I can hear you. Apologies. I think my internet went off, but gladly this was my last slide. So, and I think we had talked about relationship values and we had an example of openness. So as we wrap up class, give me one example of the relationship values.
Trust. Can I?
Trust, yes.
I think inclusivity, letting people be heard.
Yes, inclusivity. Another?
Self-discipline.
Yeah, self-discipline.
Humility.
Yes, humility. Yeah, so it's about relationship. It's about what you display to the other person. So the next type of value, organizational values, this reflects how organizations show up or operate in the world. So most of the time on an organizational website, you will see it has the vision, it has the mission, and then the next thing is normally the core values of that organization. It reflects the organization culture and how people feel in that organization. And one of the most common ones is normally teamwork. Can we have another example of organizational culture? Sorry, organizational value?
Competency.
Competence, yes.
Fairness.
Fairness, yes.
Innovation.
Innovation.
Transparency.
Transparency is very common. Integrity, teamwork, accountability. Yes, yes.
Professionalism.
Professionalism. So those are some of the organizational values. Then societal values. This reflects how you or your organization relates to the society. And an example of is sustainability. So you can say that you are a person who supports sustainability, or your organization is an organization that supports sustainability. You have organizations who support inclusivity. So can we hear from you any other societal values that you're aware of?
Equality.
Equality, yes, another good societal value.
Dignity.
Sorry?
Hygiene. Can you say hygiene?
I didn't hear you that.
Hygiene.
Hygiene, okay, yes, that is a good one also. I think we've heard about all those values, but the most important thing now is that, sorry?
Dignity.
Dignity, yes, that is also a good societal value. So just to wrap up, I need you to ask yourself this question: what are your personal values? Because your personal value is what reflects your identity, it reflects your image, and it's going to really help you in terms of your career. So it's important. If you've not already identified your personal values now, there's a table there. I think this slide is going to, you can look at those values and even Google more and identify a few. You don't have to have 20 values. You can leave the 20 of them, but you can develop 5 good ones that you feel that you want it to be your selling point throughout your career. So identify a few values, then start practicing them, start, living them. And you can even get a mentor and just tell them that I have identified these values and I want to inculcate them in myself. And I want you to give me feedback after 1 year. Am I living those values? Can you describe me as living those values? And this will really help you because you can be able now to grow within your profession, you grow within your family in all situations, because you will be a person who's seen that is living some values which are very, attractive in society. People will gravitate towards you, especially with values like honesty, with values like, trustworthy person, a person who is a team leader. Then those values would really, propel your career. So I think we've come to the end of this session of leadership and communication. And we talked about leadership and communication skills, assertive communication, positive work relationships. We talked about inappropriate, and appropriate work behavior. We active listen. So we talked quite a bit, and I'm hoping that you're going to practice this. This should not just be a lecture like the way you're getting in class. This is real life. That's why we call it employability. We are giving you the skills to go and be able to live your life in the workplace in a positive way, in a way that it will show that you have gone through a program that makes you even more competitive than other people. So thank you for listening to me, and I wish you a blessed evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ono, for your time and for the lesson that you've offered us all. I hope we've all learned something and we'll put it into practice later when we are going into the job market, or for those who are there or interning. At least you've learned something from the first lesson that Dr. Ono gave us up to now. Sure, she has been a wealth of information to us. So, as there are some people who are still talking, but as our norm, we are going to have our last lesson from Byron. And this is in preparation for our Thursday class, or no, not Thursday, for our career talk day with the Kariuki Ngari, the CEO for Standard Chartered. So we are going to welcome him with the slogan Future Makers. So Byron, if you can sign for us, Future Makers, and we can all turn on our videos and sign it. That will be the welcoming sign for Karaoke Ngari on that day. Future Makers. Can we all try it? Yes. Byron, future.
Open palm. Future.
Maker.
Again.
Future.
Future.
Makers.
Maker.
So it will be hashtag.
Oh.
Future.
Hashtag.
Future.
Maker.
Okay. Thank you for that. You can still keep on practicing that till next week. Have a good time. keep safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.